AW Group Chat, episode 3. It's early April. The boys are back here, jumping on a call here tonight in the midst of quarantine for some of us, for all of us. World's in a weird spot right now, but I guess no better time to get on a call with everybody here and have a little recap on what's been going on here at AW the past month or so with shed season, and then kind of have a quick chat about what we're going to do the next month or two. So, figured let's get the group going here, and yeah, guys, what's going on? How we doing?
Good, good.
Doing good.
Yeah, first off, I think a lot of people have seen by now. It's been already been 4 weeks, but had an outstanding shed season, especially down on the Comerford farm in Illinois there. And that was definitely one of my highlights. Josh, this was your first year. What'd you think?
It's a spectacular property. I think the areas you guys left food in this year definitely helped our shed rally, so to speak. When we took the time to really map out where we found those sheds. Really, you're talking about a almost 500 acre property that we found 90% of the sheds on, about 75 acres. So, and it was all within where all the standing crop was. So it really was easy to see the benefit of leaving the standing crop.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there. It's amazing that we actually kind of did a little map between us, just kind of here were the points where we saw everything happen, and it's so obvious. It was all within arm's reach of food for the most part. I mean, pretty crazy. So, but that's part of the benefit of leaving that food up. So,
It makes you
Absolutely.
feel good, investing the time and money into it, that it pays off, not just in your late season hunts, of course, which is the primary reason, but then the shed hunting is kind of that added bonus.
yeah, Clay, can you give the details on kind of where we're at as far as what we left up for the year?
Yeah, so last fall, I think we ended up leaving about 3 acres of beans and not more than that, sorry, probably 7 acres of beans and then 2 acres of corn. And when we went through the property, it seemed to me that the food probably ran out maybe a couple weeks before we got down in the first week of March. So it lasted, I'm comfortable saying, at least through the middle part of February,
Mm.
which is that, death time for a deer if they're going to eat the dirt. So we got them through that harsh time in the winter, and that's all you can ask for. So
Yeah.
next year going into it, we can leave about the same amount of food up. I think that's a good game plan. Total of 7 to 8 acres on approximately 500 acres.
Hmm.
That seems right. The deer density by us is fairly high, so no less than that. But that seems to be about the right amount, and economically, it's not too big of a pain either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we learned our lesson from the year before when we got in a bit of a tight spot, tough growing season, things like that. We were only able to leave up maybe what 2 to 3 acres of food the previous year, and we pretty much knew based on trail cam photos that was wiped out almost before Christmas. So by stretching it out that extra couple months, that I think is giving our population a pretty good jump start going into 2020. Hopefully we see some good antler growth out of that if they are healthy. Um,
Mhm.
we honestly, I don't know, guys. I don't recall finding any fresh dead deer from winter kill either on the farm. So I thought that was good news. Also, you always worry about that a little bit.
Yeah, and drawing comparisons like on the food source year to year. You also had kind of two extremes of the winters too. That
Hmm.
18-19 winter was, at least here in Iowa, I think it was a record snowfall in February of 19, and we had barely any snow this year in February of
Yeah,
2020. So, but you don't know that when it's this time of year, it's upcoming, what it's going to be. So
yeah, absolutely. And for those that don't necessarily know what we're referencing, we put a video up on YouTube a few weeks back that kind of was our summary video of the shed rally down there at the farm, and encourage you to check that out. It's a little under a half hour long, but I think what was our total, boys? What did we get out of that weekend? 29, 30, something like that.
28 fresh.
28 fresh ones, right?
Yeah, 28 fresh. That's right. Our goal going into the weekend was 25. We definitely hit that. So some pretty cool video. Go check that out. Definitely, we'll put the link in the screen here now. But kind of shifting gears, Seth, you did a little shed hunting in Iowa then as well. You found a few nice ones. We put that on Instagram. A few nice posts out there from some good ones.
Yeah, so on the main farm that I hunt, actually the farmer that gives me permission found a really nice match set, a deer that Josh and I kind of hunted this last fall when he was down. He was on camera about every day, and we never laid eyes on him. We're still kind of scratching our head how that happened because he was there in the daylight. But he's just a nice tall 8-pointer, I think a 4-year-old, and with kind of a kicker off one of his G2s. So that's kind of the highlight of that main farm. We had I guess a secondary farm, I would call it, the same farm where I shot my buck. There was a really, really nice buck there that we worked really hard to find his sheds, but didn't have any luck. So had pictures in middle of January, so believe that he'll be around the season, but that head in that shed always kind of gives you that extra comfort. But I think overall the Iowa shed hunting was a little bit tough. I think it goes a little bit back to that milder winter. Most of the looking we did was a little bit earlier on, so I suspect there may have been a higher percentage still holding, and then possibly they might have been more spread out than in normal years. But
yeah,
we still feel really good, I guess, about the health of the herd and the numbers.
Yeah, we saw that
on that secondary farm. Did anybody end up finding that shed, or at least one of them too?
Not that I heard. This particular deer that I referenced, most of the neighbors are aware of him. But I guess I hadn't heard. So.
Interesting. You had kind of hit on it there a little bit. We did find, I think, where we're at down at our farm that the deer we're holding a lot later this year. I think it's just a culmination of the weather for the most part. But even when we were down 2 weeks ago, Clay, you were seeing deer still holding, and that was late March. So
yeah, I drove around the block and I saw 3 different bucks holding. 2 out of the 3 were full racks. They're probably 2-year-old deer, and then 1 out of the 3 was a half rack, probably 3-year-old, which is pretty wild in late March. So that tells you something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a small percentage that fall, a little bit later, but it was definitely higher this year. So something to look into for sure. But now just kind of shifting gears away from shed hunt, unless any of you guys had anything else kind of to hit on there. Obviously,
I was going to say one other thing, if you don't mind. So we actually, just through the groups that we shared the video, and we had a few questions. One key that I think your farm, referring to Cody and Clay, that quail buffer or the grassy strip, in addition to the food, it just gives that nice bedding, which I think it's super essential as well. So.
Yeah, to emphasize that for people that are wondering what Seth's referencing, we're in a program where essentially the first 50 yards, let's say 50 or 75 yards outside of the timber around our entire farm. So between the timber and where the ag starts, we're enrolled in the program. It's a quail buffer program. So there's some nice grass, fairly high grass, and just that sort of terrain that you tend to find a lot of sheds in for whatever reason. So that's what Seth's referencing there. The plan is to continue having that in that program because it's proven fruitful.
Yeah, it makes the 500 acres hunt much, much larger when you don't have those fields coming right to the edge of the timber. No doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
One quick thing on the cacaw. I know a lot of people were wondering what that's all about. I think that really just that call sign, a very distinct sound you get in those timbers with the wind, and you start talking like, "Hey, I found one," or you say, "Hey, where are you at?" And the next guy yells, "Oh, you found one?" Or it's just a very easy thing to know, like, okay, he's got one. and that's
definitive.
why we do it. So
There's no confusing that call, no doubt. Especially when you find one yourself and you're like, all right, I get to yell it now, and you make it a little extra loud. And unfortunately, like it was a bit windy when we went down and had our shed rally, so it was still hard to hear. But if you were within a reasonable distance, you knew what it was all about. So yeah, that was something, Seth, you brought to the rally a couple years back, and I don't think that's dying anytime soon. That's kind of a cool little thing. So
if you've ever shed hunted in a group, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody says, "Hey, where are you at?" And the other guy hears, "You found one? Should I come over?" And it's like, "No, I was just seeing where you were." And so anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So shifting gears a little bit, shed hunting was great for us this year. I think we're already looking forward to next year. It's probably our best and most fun off-season activity. But as we move more into spring, there's more activities to be had. Clay and I are heading down to our farm this weekend, actually, a little bit in part to just get some fresh air, but also to do a few different things. And I know you guys have a few different things on your schedule as well here in April and early May before really planting season gets going. So want to just hit on that a little bit. Clay, I don't know if you want to kind of let everybody know what we're thinking about doing and why we're doing it this time of year.
Yeah, it's April 2nd today. So the temperature's right outside where it's not too hot, not too cold. We have 3 main activities this weekend. It's going to be pruning apple trees, then fertilizing the apple trees on some clover plots that we have. We have 2 specific clover plots and I'm referencing. And then third one is going to be getting some additional double sits on our farm. So putting up secondary tree stands that are next to a stand that's already existing. So then we can have another option for a camera person to come in and be overlooking some of our better locations. Throughout the years, the last four years that we've had the farm, we started off by only having single sits. And as we got more serious about filming, we continuously got more and more double sits. And I think we're up to about 8 different double sits across our property. So it's a good number. We cover majority of the good spots of the farm. So that's the 3 main things we're doing this weekend.
Mm-hmm. It's always a little bit of extra work. Those each set takes a lot longer than you expect. So, if we can go down there this weekend and get a couple more put in, I think mission accomplished there for sure. And just to kind of hit on the apple tree side of things, we did plant those the first off season that we had the farm. So they're a few years old now. I think we started with 9, Clay. What were the numbers? I think 9.
Yeah, started with 9.
Yep, 9 total, and we know we've got about 4 that are doing quite well, another 2 or 3 that are okay, and 1 or 2 that really didn't do well. We think that's more just the selection on species that we want to put in. So definitely cool thing to have apple trees planted right away because we do feel like long term they're going to be something great for the farm. We plan on shooting a video on that, just kind of a quick update and putting that on YouTube also here in the next month or so. So be on the lookout for that. Seth, Josh, what are you guys thinking about here the next little while?
Honestly, you can never stop thinking about it, but my biggest thing is just keep shooting your bow. I mean, we take granted. I think we can, between Seth and I, we laugh about it all the time. You sit there and you prep and you shoot your bow and you're prepared to take a 40-yard shot. And then this year, I mean, we had, I think, about combined 25 yards, to our deer that we each harvested in Iowa. So that's the way you want it to work out, but it, doesn't always work that way. So the more you can shoot your bow, fine tune just go through all your arrows, make sure your fletchings are good, nocks, make sure you don't have any cracks in the end of your arrows, all that stuff. It's just a good time to go through all that stuff.
I agree. And you could probably find a few things still on discount or clearance sort of stuff that, it's while it's fresh in your mind, you think, oh, I need that or I need this versus wait until September, October. And when it's, either out of stock because everybody else has gotten it or whatever.
Yeah. The next few months for sure. There's definitely not as much going on as other months, so it is the perfect time to jump outside and put a few arrows in the target, especially when we're kind of on lockdown. Get a little fresh air in the backyard. Can't go wrong with that for sure. I know I'm trying to look at getting a whole new setup between next season, and I gotta put that on pause a little bit until hopefully these archery shops open back up in the next few months. So definitely I'll be looking forward to that. But in the meantime, just as far as cameras, what do we have stuff in the woods right now? Thoughts? No real reason.
I don't.
No.
I normally pull them out at shed hunting and then put them back in usually the middle of June, with the first check being around the 4th of July. They're still obviously growing quite a bit, maybe about half grown by the 4th of July. Probably not exactly half, but you at least have an idea what they're going to be. And just kind of use this time, the April, May time frame, to maybe regroup, spend some family time. I know my wife gets a little irritated of the shed hunting because I go every chance I can get in March, as long as I have permission to go somewhere. So I guess for that reason, I don't really turkey hunt a whole lot. I like it. I enjoy it. I just don't make time for it just because it's more of my off season. But we'll start planting here, or I don't farm, but the farmers will start planting here, I'm sure, in a couple weeks. And I know, probably in Wisconsin it'll be May 1st is the general rule of thumb up there, but generally middle of April in the part of Iowa that I'm in, seeds are going in the ground. So try to the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sweet. Well, I don't want to get this to go too long, but I think we kind of covered everything we wanted to, just recapping what we have going on. Obviously, like I said before, check out the shed video we posted a few weeks back. Pretty cool story on what we were all doing, and kind of just a good recap in general. We're going to post a few more videos here the next month or so, on a few different topics, just depending on what we get to. But keep following us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, obviously, also, as we keep kind of keeping everybody engaged on what we're going and seeing out there. But also, between now and I'd say the next month or two, we'll post a few other videos that we had from this past fall, and kind of show everybody. We've got a story of Josh's buck that we want to tell a little bit, so we'll get that out there also. But in the meantime, wish everybody kind of a safe next month or two as we battle through this situation. But I think we'll come out of it, and everybody's definitely going to be ready to get out there and enjoy the summer. And before we know it, I think fall and hunting season will be here. So just a few more months.
Absolutely.
Cool.
See y'all later.
Yep. Have a good one.
See you guys.
Later.